Good evening, everyone. Dallin, Larsen from my home in the mountains of Utah. It's a beautiful, gorgeous spring evening here. Snow-capped mountains, but the grass is turning green. The pollen is in the air. It's a fresh new beginning. I hope that you're safe wherever you are in the world. I couldn't be more thrilled for tonight's life lessons. I hope you're enjoying these life lessons as much as I'm enjoying bringing them to you. My guest this evening is none other than the amazing and great Les Brown. Les, born in Miami, he was adopted by Mommy Brown. His first job was a DJ. Maybe we'll talk about a little bit of music tonight, among other things, and how we went from a DJ to being recognized by Toastmasters as one of the top 5 global speakers, okay? And the National Speakers Association inducted him into the Global Hall of Fame. In fact, he's the only one still, I believe, of Toastmasters of the top 5. He's the only one still with us. And we all want Les to be here for so many more years. I heard Les Brown for the first time, I guess, about 30 years ago in Southern California, and I was inspired that day. And he's inspired countless people all over the world through his career. What an amazing life he has lived. His new book, if you haven't got it yet, make sure you go to Amazon and order it. You got to be hungry. The Greatness Within to Win by Les Brown. In fact, when Les and I were talking last week, I was telling him that, well, he's got 10 children, by the way, 10 children and 15 grandchildren. And I said, you sound like my mom and dad, Les. My mom and dad married 64 years, 10 children, 59 grandchildren, and 141 great-grandchildren. He said, wow, you got to be really hungry to get to those numbers. So he's just got such a great sense of humor. He's full of wisdom. We're going to talk for a few minutes and have a fireside chat. He's joining me from California. Maybe it looks kind of like the beaches of Hawaii where he is tonight. I'm not sure exactly where he is. But we're going to be talking about what Les talks a lot about is keeping the main thing, and what it takes to win and make it through tough times. We certainly are living through some challenging times, aren't we? A time the which we've never seen before. I can't think of someone better to have on life lessons to talk about perspective than the one and only, the great Les Brown. Les, are you with us?
Yes, I am, and I'm glad to be. It's better to be seen than to be viewed.
Well, Les, it's so good to see you. I love your smile. It's so contagious. And, I've got some different questions I'm going to ask you tonight. And but I just want us to have like a little chat, okay?
Yes, that'll be fine.
You've got 10 kids.
Yes, I'm suing the Catholic Church because I have a class action suit. The rhythm method does not work, and so I filed a suit against them for that.
It took you a few kids to figure that out, huh? My mom,
yeah.
My dad used to say to us. I mean, my dad. There's 10 kids. He came from a family. He only had one sister and no brothers, but he married my mom, and she wanted to have a big family. And he used to tell people that when they got married, their first 10 years, they lived next to a train track. And about 2 o'clock in the morning, the train would come by, it'd wake him up, and he'd say, Mom would say, well, do you want to go back to bed or what? He'd say, what? And 10 kids later and 59 grandchildren later. There you go.
Wow.
So congratulations on that, Les.
Yeah, thank you.
So, hey, tell me, how are you feeling? You safe? I sent you off some products. I hope you're enjoying those.
Enjoying the products very much, and I want to thank you so very, very much. It's very important that we ask ourselves, what's your strategy for being here? And the quality and the kind of products that you provide, people can incorporate that in a strategy to maintaining optimal health. We have to take care of ourselves. Our health is truly our wealth, as people say.
Well, Les, that's so true. And I want everyone in the audience to know how grateful I am for you being on here. Daniel, my business partner, interviewed you. You had a visit with him 3 or 4 weeks ago. You were kind enough to say, if there's anything I can do, just let me know. And so when I invited you on tonight, you graciously accepted. I'm so looking forward to having you come out in August. I'm believing that we're going to have a big global convention in August. You're the keynote, whether that's in person or whether we may end up doing that over Zoom or whatever. But however we have it, we are going to have it. And I can't wait for you to speak then. And I'm grateful for you joining me for a few minutes tonight. So this is called Life Lessons, Les. And so I'm really interested in some of the things that you've learned in your life and how you went from humble beginnings to some of the struggles you've had in life, and just some advice you'd like to give to people who are tuning in tonight. Some of them are scared. Some of them have some anxiety. You know, you turn on the TV, you're not quite sure who's got the facts and who doesn't anymore. On what should I do, what shouldn't I do? So any advice in any area of life that you feel inclined to share, feel free to do so. Maybe you start with your upbringing and some of the lessons you learned growing up.
Well, one of the things that I learned, if I had to talk to that young Les Brown, born in an abandoned building on a floor in a poor section of Miami, Florida, called Liberty City, with a twin brother, being a foster kid, and then my mother, she adopted us along with 5 other children. And so I always say that I'm here because of 2 women. One gave me life, the other one gave me love. That God took me out of my biological mother's womb and placed me in the heart of my adopted mother. And I always quote Abraham Lincoln. He said, "All that I am and all that I ever hope to be, I owe to my mother." And I feel that way. I'm a mama's boy. When I was a kid, they called me Mamie's boy because I was just like my mother. She never met a stranger. And so, but what I face the reality that we're always going to face places in life where we've never been before. When she said, "I will take these kids," I've met people who were adopted or foster kids, and they felt like they were given away. I felt like I was chosen with love. But her life, she'd never had any children before. And a neighbor said, "Mamie, you said you wanted to share your life with some kids, and I want to introduce you to someone." And they introduced her to a man named Mr. Moss, who was a social worker. And so she said yes. Never had any children, 3rd grade education. She worked for wealthy families on Miami Beach. She cooked for them, and we ate the food left over from the people that she worked for. My mother could bake a great sweet potato pie. It was so good you couldn't eat it with your shoes on. You had to take your shoes off so you could wiggle your toes. and she kept our children, and we wore the hand-me-down clothes of the children that she kept. And I remember walking around these big, beautiful mansions saying, "Mama," and she said, "What is it, Leslie?" I said, "When I become a man, I'm gonna buy you a big, beautiful home just like this." And she had to take me to work with her because the neighbors said they couldn't handle me. They said that I was a little touched in the head. and so, but her life was in a new place with these 7 children. And
wow.
She's a single mother. We're in a new place right now. And so there's a lot of fear that the media is promoting. But when fear shows up, 1 or 2 things happen. The majority of people, when confronted with something that they consider fearful, they look, they turn, and they run. But there's a few people who, when they are faced with something that people consider fearful, they face it and rise. And so this is where we are. We have to face it and rise. Do we know exactly how this is going to turn out? No, but we've all had experiences in our lives where we had to leap and grow our wings on the way down. And so what's very important that I learned from my mother, because during tough times, and she would cook for the neighbors, and when she was injured on her job and she could not work on Miami Beach anymore or work in the cafeteria, she ironed clothes and she played certain music that inspired her. And when you are looking at your life and looking at expanding where you are and dealing with the things that come your way, Viktor Frankl calls it unavoidable suffering, that life is going to always deal you some suffering over the next year. Something's going to happen to all of us at least 3 times, or to someone that we care about. The book of life says, think it not strange that you'll face the fiery furnaces of this world. You will, not you might, you will have tribulations. And so I encourage people to have a ritual to fortify yourself. I can hear my mother now. One of her favorite songs was, fly the ocean in a silver plane, see the jungle when it's wet with rain, and different other songs that made her feel good, that gave her a sense of comfort. And I listen to a lot of spiritual music, and I also listen to motivational messages. I encourage people, when you get up in the morning, you want to set yourself up to win. Do not get up with the news first thing in the morning. Why? Because whatever you watch and listen to when you first get up, it will affect the spirit of your day. And so you want to set yourself up to win by reprogramming your mind. That's why we're told, be ye not conformed to this world, be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind. And that's an ongoing process. So whatever you hear the first 20 minutes when you get up in the morning, it'll affect the spirit of your day. I'll never forget when an oncologist, Dr. Alfred Golson, boy, he was a character. 27 years ago, he said, Mr. Brown? I said, yes, sir. He said, you have prostate cancer and your PSA is 2,400. I said, what does that mean? Prostate specific antigen, 1 to 4 is normal. 2,400 is what yours is. And it has metastasized to 7 areas of your body. I said, wow. He said, why are you smiling like that? I said, 7 is my lucky number. I said, I'm one of 7 children. I was born February the 17th. I said, Joshua marched around the walls of Jericho 7 times. Naaman dipped himself in the river Jordan 7 times. I said, 7 is my lucky number. He looked at his nurse and said, this is a strange one here. And so I asked, I said, can you give me a second opinion? He said, yes. I said, well, who would you recommend? He said, no, the second opinion is you're ugly. What? I said, you didn't go there. You didn't call me ugly, did you? He said, yes, I did. And you got this. He said, doctors determine the diagnosis. You and God determine the prognosis, how long you're going to be here. Here's what I learned from that session. How we live our lives is a result of the story we believe about ourselves. He interrupted my story immediately because when you say cancer, that's the most feared word in 7 different languages. When you say cancer, people have been programmed to believe it's a death sentence. And so when you laugh, the mind shuts down and the heart opens up. And he spoke to my heart and say, you got this. God and you determine the prognosis. There's different things that you're going to have to do. Your mindset is going to be major. Your faith is going to be very important. We determined the diagnosis and did something very unusual. Gave me a watch with no hand on it. I say, how can I tell the time? He said, this will remind you that you got to be mindful and deliberate and make choices that say, I plan to be here as you go forward. That's 27 years ago, all right? So what he did was he helped me to become mindful of my thinking. We can't control the thoughts that come in our minds, but we can control the thoughts that we dwell on. That's why it's very important right now that we turn off the television, because we will be filled with fear. This is a time you want to be concerned, but you don't want to be fearful. God has not given us a spirit of fear, but of power and of love and of sound mind. You can't be in a sound mind when you're running scared. And so when I get up, I listen to a variety of people. Jim Rohn, when the end comes for you, let it find you conquering a new mountain, not sliding down an old one. Dr. Norman Vincent Peale, you got something special. Don't allow your negative thoughts to overpower you. Zig Ziglar, if you give enough people what they want, they will give you what you want. I've been listening to these voices over the years. Why? Because every time I listen to them, it's like when I see the movie, my favorite movie, Forrest Gump. I see something and hear something I didn't hear before because my life is in a different place.
Mm-hmm.
So we have to be intentional right now. This is unbelievable. I can't tell you the number of times that I was hoping that I'm in a dream. I said, this has got to be a dream. This can't be real. You talk about I can't hug you. I can't sit next to people. I've got to give virtual hugs. I've never heard anything like that in my life. And so when you're dealing with touch deprivation, when people have lost their jobs, 26.1 million Americans out of nowhere lose their jobs. Businesses are being closed. People are being traumatized with what has happened. Domestic violence, even before coronavirus, every time the unemployment would go up 1%, 10,000 women are beaten and children are battered. And so now when you look at where we are and the kind of numbers that we're dealing with, when you look at television and see the numbers of people lined up for a food bank, this is a place we've never been before. And we got this. This has not come to stay. It has come to pass. And we now must operate from the truth that we know. Ye shall know the truth. It's not about believing now. Oh, I believe we can get through. No, no, no. We must know the truth, that we know that we are going to get through this. And when you operate from a place of knowing, your behavior, your choices, your expectations, they're different. And as you begin to move, because when I left his office, I said, I got this. I kept saying it to myself, because how we live our lives is in the context of our self-explanatory style. And so we have to encourage ourselves. We have to listen to motivational messages on a regular basis. I encourage everybody that's listening to listen to 3 presentations that they can watch on YouTube. One of them is called Getting Unstuck, because I was stuck during that period of time when I did that presentation. And the next one is called It's Possible. We have to operate what Robert Schuller called in the context of possibility thinking. And the other one is called Les Brown Speaking in the Georgia Dome, where I'm speaking to over 80,000 people. I was so frightened, I don't even remember giving the speech. I do remember going to the bathroom 7 times though. So the mindset, having the mental resolve and focus where you're going. What most people do, they look at their situation and their circumstances. No, that takes away your power. You want to focus where you're going. Hold a vision of where you're going, of what you want to achieve, of what's next for you. He said, I'll give you all your eyes can see. So we cannot allow ourselves to be distracted. Now, this is easier said than done, but I can tell you that we have to train our thinking, and we have to make a mindful, conscious, deliberate decision that we're going to focus where we're going, not where we are and the stuff that's around us, because where focus goes, energy flows. So when I left that doctor's office, I kept thinking and saying to myself, dealing with sciatica pain and the cancer pain, no matter how bad it is or how bad it gets, I'm going to make it. I had to say that through tears. I had to say that when I had no idea of what was going to be next. I had to say that when people would be around me and I heard them talking about palliative care. When I came into the hospital to be treated, and I asked a friend of mine who's a nurse, when I got home, I said, they were talking a lot about palliative care. And she said, they're talking about making you comfortable. Making me comfortable? I'm in a fight for my life. I'm not interested in being comfortable. Life is a fight for territory. And once you stop fighting for what you want, what you don't want will automatically take over. And in my case, that was death. That's leaving here. No, 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 no. No, I'm going to fight. And so it's a challenge. I mean, I increased my tithes by 35%. I was praying so hard, darling. You know, one time I started laughing. I could just hear God said, you know, I haven't heard from you in a long time. In fact, you used to pray in bed. Now you down on your knees. You know what? You ought to be ashamed of yourself. Oh my God. I said, I know, Lord, I'm sorry. Oh boy, this thing called life, like Forrest Gump said, it's like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get. So it's about focusing and aligning our thinking, our words, and our actions.
Well, Les, so 27 years, you made a decision, and I love the advice. Don't wake up and turn on the news. Keep it off and then listen to something positive. Get your mind straight. I've got to say, I didn't realize that about your mom. She adopted 7 children. What was the age range in those? I mean, did she do it over like a 5-year period, or
yes,
what was the age range of you guys?
She did it over a 5-year period. You know, I have a twin brother. And then over the next 5 years, she took in some other kids. The lady that she adopted kids from, she had 11 kids. And so my mother said, I'll take 5 of them. And then somebody else got the other ones. But this
7?
Lady,
what a saint. Your mom, huh?
Yes. Oh, she covered the ground she stood on. She was an incredible woman. My whole life has always wanted to be able to make her proud. I remember when I decided, I said, Mama, I'm going to buy you a home one day. She said, oh, Leslie, you don't have to do that. And so I believe that in everything that happens to us, some things happen to us, some things happen for us, and that God is in the midst of it. I was living in Columbus, Ohio. I'd left Miami, and I decided that I was going to buy the home. I was in a position that I could buy a home for my mother. I randomly, and millennials don't know anything about this, went through the yellow pages, okay, to call a real estate office, and just called one at random. Now listen to this, Dallin. And so a lady answered named Shirley. So I said, hi, my name is Les Brown. I'd like to take my mother around Miami Beach to look for a home in that area, North Miami Beach. And she said, great. And so she picked me up when I came to town. And I found a house that I knew my mother would love and got it furnished and everything. And so she said, you sure your mother's going to love this? I said, yes. So then we got Mama, and we were driving in North Miami Beach area and looking at various homes. And then we got near this particular home, and my mother said, wow, ma'am, would you stop for a moment? She said, look at that house with the waterfall, the shrubbery, the grass. She said, if I lived in something like that, I would feel like Mrs. Rockefeller. She's talking about John D. Rockefeller's wife. They wrote about her in the Miami Herald. I said, Mama, you really like that? She said, yes. I said, Mama, guess what? She said, what? I said, I know the people who live there. And they told me anytime I was in the area that I can come in and visit them. Would you like to go in and visit? She said, sure. So we pulled up. At that time, Mama was 78. And I went around, opened a car, and we started walking toward the house. She looked around and saw the other big, beautiful homes. She looked at me. She said, Leslie? I said, yes, ma'am. You sure you know these people, boy? I said, yes, ma'am, Mama, I do. So we got to the door, and I couldn't hold it anymore. I took my key out and put it in the door, turned it, and opened the door. She was shocked. I said, Mrs. Rockefeller, this is your home. She looked at me in amazement. She said, what are you talking about, Leslie? I said, this is your home. It's fully furnished. Everything's paid for. I said, I got this for you to say thank you for what you've done for us. And she said, Leslie, you didn't have to do this. I said, you didn't have to adopt us either, but you did. So she stuck her head in the door. She said, anybody home? I said, Mama, there's nobody here but us. And she walked in and she looked around and said, thank you, Jesus. Nobody could have ever told me that something like this would happen to me. And then she stopped and looked at me and she said, you're such a problem, child. I said, I know, but I got money now.
Wow.
It's the happiest day of my life. I'm encouraging people to focus on why they said yes to this opportunity. Focus on why they made a commitment to control their own personal economy. Focus on where they're going, not where we are. Focus on doing the things and being mindful to keep themselves and their family and the people they care about out of harm's way, and continue to work to rebuild themselves, to rethink their lives, because this is going to be a new normal. We have to look at it like we are in a cocoon. I don't care how fast a caterpillar runs, it will never fly. It has to go into the cocoon. And it's not sitting down in the cocoon. This is no time to sit down. This is no time to spend hours on end looking at the television and looking at who died. Just be glad you're not in that number or the people you care about. This is the time that you have to rebuild. You have to begin to look at your life, where you're going, raise the bar on yourself, and ask yourself the question, who is it that I must become in order to accomplish what I see? I remember a friend of mine was going across Europe, and there were sections where soldiers boarded the train and asked several questions. Number one, who are you? This is the time we have to get quiet and ask ourselves, who am I really? Am I doing what I'm doing because this is the life that has been given me? I remember seeing a movie called The Truman Story. And this guy's life was real, and people surrounding him, they were actors, and he discovered what was going on. He was working to escape, and someone asked the question of the guy who set this up, do you think he'll escape? And he said, no. And they asked, why not? And he said, because most people accept the life that they have been given. And so there are a lot of people who have accepted the life that they have been given, but there are people that are hungry who've said, no, I'm not settling for this. And so you have to ask yourself, who am I and how am I showing up in life? And then the next question is, where have you been with your life? When you look at where you've been and what you've done, whenever I'm speaking, I always ask people the question, if you had your life to live over again, could you have done more than what you've done thus far? And I always raise my hand too, because I could have done more, but I've allowed the distractions and the interruptions of life get in the way. At the end of the day, we're all self-definitional. We can decide at any given time how we're going to show up. You know, Viktor Frankl said that adversity introduces a man or woman to themselves. Who are you? Where have you been? Where are you going? And that's major, because in order to do something you've never done, you've got to become someone you've never been. I remember listening to Earl Nightingale, and he said, you don't get in life what you want, you get in life what you are. I had a man come into my life. He was very much like you, very similar personality, Mr. Leroy Washington. And I was in his class waiting to see a friend of mine named MacArthur Stevens. And he came in and said, young man, haven't seen you here before. Go to the front of the room. I want you to work this problem out for me. I said, I can't do that, sir. And he said, why not? I said, I'm not one of your students. He said, doesn't matter. Do what I'm asking you to do anyhow. And then the other students started laughing, saying, he's Leslie. He's got a twin brother, Wesley. Wesley is smart. He's DT. And he asked, what's DT? He's the dumb twin. See, when I was in the 5th grade, I was identified as educable mentally retarded and put back from the 5th grade to the 4th grade. And I failed again when I was in the 8th grade. And I looked up at him and I said, I am, sir, as they were laughing. And he came from behind his desk and he said, don't you ever say that again. someone's opinion of you does not have to become your reality. And that was a turning point in my life, Dallin. He looked at me with the eyes of Goethe, who said, look at a man the way that he is, he only becomes worse. But look at him as if he were what he could be, then he becomes what he should be. And so he didn't know, but I adopted him as my spiritual father. I followed him everywhere. I watched him, and he had great oratorical skills. He's a speech and drama teacher, and he dressed very well, always wore a red tie. Whenever you see me, I love red ties. That reminds me of him. And he taught me several things, but 3 things that I think will be useful for people watching us right now. Number 1, he said, work on your mind, build mental resolve, because life is tough. You've got to be tougher. He said, you have to fortify your faith and booster your confidence. You're going to take some hits. Walt Disney failed in business 7 times and had 2 nervous breakdowns. You will fail your way to success. So mental resolve is major. The other thing that he said, practice the principle of OQP, only quality people. During this time where we're in lockdown, this is a time to write out, and I'm doing this myself, a list of people that you interact with and communicate with most, family members and friends. And ask this question. My son, John Leslie, he's a speaker and author and trainer. Ask this question, who should I count on and who should I count out? There are people that's always there when they need you. When you need them, you can't find them. And the other thing is that Jim Rohn said, look at the people in your life and ask the question, what kind of person am I becoming because of this relationship? Am I growing mentally and emotionally and spiritually? Am I expanding my vision of myself? There are 2 types of relationships in life. There are nourishing relationships and toxic relationships. Nourishing relationships hold you accountable. They bring the best out of you. You are challenged by these people. This is the kind of leadership that you provide. Your reputation precedes you. I've talked to people who've been around you, and they talk about how you make them feel better about themselves and that they can do anything. You're a man of integrity, and you have a vision of bringing out the best in others as well as bringing out the best in yourself, that you're not just a messenger, but you're also the message. And so the next thing he said that was very important, he said, develop your communication skills, because once you open your mouth, you tell the world who you are. And he was right. Developing your mind, upgrading your relationships, and developing your communication skills. Those are 3 tools that will allow you to get through any of the storms of life. And when we come speak at the convention, we're going to share some other things that will be very helpful to the people that are watching. It's common sense, but not always common practice.
Well, oh man, what a wealth of information you've shared in such a short period of time. I love hearing your stories.
Thank you.
And these thin threads of life, I really want to dedicate this program tonight to your mom.
Thank you.
Because Les, I don't know, I mean, who knows where you are today if you were adopted by someone else. I mean, these thin threads in life, it's amazing, really, isn't it? And
yes.
God sent you to the just perfect woman. You talk about courage, a woman who adopted 7 children and spoke life into them. And then when Moses went up on top of that mountain with his finger, gave him its number 5, your father and mother. And to hear you tell that story about you buying your mother a home and driving her to it, how honoring you are to your mother. And I think of the hundreds of thousands of people, probably millions at this stage, of people whose life opened into, and your mom has a piece of that. Your mom, is she still alive?
Now, she made a transition at 89. She's in heaven baking sweet potato pies.
Well, my mom is 88, Les, and we've both been blessed by amazing mothers. I hear exactly what you're saying, and I always say my parents gave me roots and wings, not loot and things. And I was born on rich soil. I've got a couple things before we end, Les. I'd love to ask you. You talked about Viktor Frankl. I love his Man's Search for Meaning book. It's probably my favorite book. But
yes,
do you have a favorite book? If people are out there watching and listening tonight, that you'd say this of all the books I've read, or not?
Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl is one I love very much, because he talked about, and I went to Poland, and because of that book and a man that I work for named Sam Axelrod, and I wanted to understand the resiliency of the human spirit. And he said the Jews that were able to survive the Nazi German concentration camps had one of three things going for them. Either they believed in God, or they had some family member that they were determined to see again, or they believed in a cause bigger than themselves. And I want to just say here that what you have done and what you have built and the way that you live your life, you are determined to live a life that will outlive you. That when you are gone, this which you have built, this opportunity for people to take control of their own personal economy, to build something that they can pass on to their children, it's a life that will outlive them. And so hats off to you. And as we look at this thing called life right now, what just came to my mind as you were talking, that we're now in a place where we don't want to just go through it. We want to grow through it. We want to be better on the other side of it. We want to spend some time listening, watching, and observing this thing called life, and knowing He'll never leave us nor forsake us, knowing we're more than conquerors, knowing that greater is He that's in me than he that's in the world. That gives me a sense of peace. He said, I'll keep thee in perfect peace, whose mind is stayed on thee. And to me, having a sense of peace in the midst of the storm, it's easy to have peace when your bills are paid, your marriage is working out, the children are acting like they have good sense. My son who had us set up in here, I was looking at him after he just left the room. I remember I was looking at him one day. I said, boy, you about to make me lose my mind up in here, up in here. You about to make me act a fool up in here. Let me tell you something, man. Children to make you go there. You hear me?
Yeah.
You'll be calling on the Heavenly Father, Jesus, Allah, reading the Bible, the Kabbalion, everything. But what I'm doing now is trusting. Yeah, this is a place where we have to trust. We want to be concerned, but not consumed. We have to be concerned, but not consumed. That whatever's over our head is under God's feet. We got this.
That's good. Well, I've been writing some notes. I hope you all did too. You heard what Les said. Go to YouTube and watch Getting Unstuck. Watch It's Possible, and then go listen and watch Les speak at the Georgia Dome in front of 80,000 people. And then he said, work on your mind, fortify your faith. Well, he didn't. That was Mr. Washington taught you those things, didn't he?
Yes, yes.
Work on your mind, fortify your faith. OQP, only quality people. Make sure you're surrounding yourself with quality people. I've put a quality person in front of you tonight, and then develop communication skills, and who knows, maybe you'll be listed by Toastmasters, one of the top 5 speakers in the world. Les, you know, at the end of our lives, I got two quickly, true or false. I wrote these down. You believe this, true or false? You become like the people you hang around. True or false?
Without any question, people rub off on you. You earn within $2,000 to $3,000 of your closest friends.
So some of us need some better friends. Is that what you're saying?
Absolutely. When I heard that, I got every broke person out of my life.
Okay. How about?
Look at Dallin. I used to be so broke. I walked past a bank and tripped the alarm.
How about this one? True or false? Readers are leaders.
Without any question, I disciplined myself. I heard a motivational message by Brian Tracy. He said the average American reads 1 book a year. He said knowledge is a new currency. If you discipline yourself to read 1 book a month, in 5 years, when the average American would have read 5 books, you'd have read 60 books, then you are an expert. So I discipline myself, because I don't have any college education, to read 3 books a month in the area of self-development, how the mind functions. What does it take to speak to a room of strangers and transform them individually and collectively? And how do you orchestrate and create an experience? When I came into the industry, and this is very important for people that are building the business, it's not just about providing information. If information could change people, everybody would be skinny, rich, and happy. What you have to do is you create an experience with your presence. Oliver Wendell Holmes said that once a man or woman's mind has been expanded with an idea, concept, or experience, it can never be satisfied to going back to where it was. This is the time that we have to build relationship capital. This is the time that we must look for and listen to people. Never let what you want to say get in the way of what people want to hear. They can smell residual income breath. They can smell it, all right? You want people to know that you care about them. Maya Angelou said, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And when you care for people and you listen to people and you demonstrate that, and for those of you that are listening and watching, you're part of an organization, have leadership that not only has integrity and that's loyal and committed to you, but want the best for you and got your back. And that's major today. And so when you have a relationship with someone who's going to challenge you, someone who's going to work with you in providing a system that allows you to begin to accelerate your success. There's no secret to success. There's a system to success. And the Viseo system works if you work it. And if you're coachable and committed, the things that you can do, eye has not seen, ear has not heard, nor is it in the heart of mankind what God has in store for you. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. This has been Mrs. Mamie Brown's baby boy. It's been a plum-pleasing pleasure as well as a privilege. God bless you, and God bless your dream.
Thank you, Les, for joining us tonight. Truly an honor. Godspeed. Continue on these products, and let's go for another 27 years, shall we?
I accept that. Yes, indeed.
Thanks again, Les, and I'll look forward to having you join us in August. So for Dallin, or for all of Viseo, I want to thank all of you who watched this evening. Special thanks again to the great Les Brown. And I will see you next Sunday evening on another episode of Life Lessons.